Good evening, everybody. Malakith here, and welcome to the first Sunday line battle for Holdfast Nations at War. So, for those who are unfamiliar with this game, it is a new offering from Game Studios coming out on the 21st of September 2017. It will be releasing into Steam Early Access, where they will obviously continue development and progress the game. Going on to an unspecified launch date in the future sometime. The current price is supposed to be €19.99, 15 British pounds, 20 US dollars, or 22 Canadian dollars. It will be reflective of your local currency's strength, and so in Steam it will be adjusted accordingly, but those are the prices I've been given so far for those territories. For those who are familiar with the Napoleonic Wars game, they'll be interested to know that currently it supports 120 players for land battles, which is what you will be seeing at the start of today. The numbers for some of the other game modes are slightly lower at the moment because they're still going through optimizing it, and throughout the early access period that optimization will continue, and they're hoping to increase both the land battles and the other game modes. Something to note for this video: there is location-based voice over IP, so if you're shouting in the in-game voice chat, people within a certain distance of you will hear that. Further away they will not. You can hear the other team if you are close enough. For the purposes of this video, I've disabled that because we are sitting in spectator mode. We would be getting all kinds of shouting and yelling, and with no control over what is said or done over that voice chat, I unfortunately can't have it turned on for YouTube purposes. I've also disabled the chat window because it gives you guys a more unobstructed view of the screen. It would usually be in the bottom right. It's reasonably unobtrusive. The chat's quite small. Of course, everything is open to change. It is early access. So please bear in mind, if there's anything you see which seems unusual or you dislike, it could potentially change in the future. So today's event is made up of 8 rounds, covering a mix of maps and time settings. There's a full day-night cycle within the game, which is configurable by the admin control panel. They will be starting at specific times of that day-night cycle in the different maps, so you will get to see day, evening, morning, and night, and then a couple more in the morning. The last 2 rounds are going to be naval battles, with a slightly reduced number of players. The other land battles will have different complements of troop makeup. So some will be line infantry and artillery only, some will be line infantry only, there'll be some with line, light, and rifles. For those who are not familiar with the Napoleonic Wars sort of setup, then these different unit types have player-enforced rules on them. So as you can see here at the moment, these are line infantry. They are formed up in a line. Each person you see in that line is an individual player. They are not AI controlled. There is no AI here at all. These are all individual players. Line infantry rules are as follows. Well, the event rules are as follows. Do not fire whilst charging. So they would have to shoot and then charge in for the bayonet kills. Do not fire out of line. So they must be in this sort of formation to shoot. You can't spread around randomly and shoot at each other. Do not aim for officers intentionally. That's just to try and actually keep the battle coherent and flowing, as opposed to descending into chaos. There is a rule where if the battle's dragging on and the timer gets down to, I think they've said 10 minutes, then they will all charge into melee. You know, regardless of where they are in the map or what unit class they are, they will all charge in. If the line that they are in drops below 4 at any point in the event, they will then have to go find another line to join to stop it descending into multiple groups of 3 people running around. And something more for the guys actually playing, they always have to follow the rules of the event organizer. So if they say you're breaking a rule, go with it. They're effectively the referee. Don't argue about it. So, as I mentioned earlier, they're not enforced rules by the game. As you can see right now, people are running around all over the place wherever they like. The players self-enforce these rules on them to try and replicate the battles of the period, which obviously involved a lot more players than 100 and, well, I say players, a lot more people than 120. So it's the game's artistic license of representing what a line would have been and the limitations imposed upon it to replicate the battle scenario. To get into this kind of gameplay, this is a private server. It will be locked down, and only regiments will be invited. Regiments are effectively guilds or clans, as you may used to be calling them in other games. So you need to join one of those regiments, and then you will get to go to events like this, where you'll get to take part in line battles of various rule sets. Event hosts they're all hosted privately, so the rules are entirely up to the event host. If you don't like some of the ones that have been listed today, set up your own event, change them, make them something else. Now, something to note here is you've got a couple of musicians. So what they are doing is giving a area of effect buff to the troops around them. I believe the flag also does a similar thing. Some will be sort of fire rate, some will be accuracy. I think the officers may do the same, but I'm not 100%. And because I'm not in the line as a player, I can't see the buffs up in the corner where I would usually expect to see them. So if we jump around, unfortunately, I only have a locked camera. Because it's in development, there is no free camera at the moment. I can't freely fly across the battlefield to show you different things, so we will be jumping around, which may get a little disorientating during the action, but we will do our best. You can see the British moving out together, heading for the ruins over here. You can just make out the French in the distance. Hopefully you're on a high enough resolution you can make them out. Let's see if we can find one of the artillery pieces that's been going off. There we go. So here we have the artillery. You can see they've got one officer and two guards which are operating the cannon. This one is the 77 Wise cannon. There's another one off to the side there. The British will have two as well. Currently, anyone can load and fire a cannon. Obviously, this officer's telescope is exceptionally helpful at aiming, because otherwise this is the view you have. You are looking down the barrel of the gun, and that is what you can see. You see those dots moving around in the distance? That's all they have to aim at. So you grab the cannonball from the box, you chuck it in the front, you push the gun forwards, you jump on the gun to aim it, and then you take your shot. Okay, we've got an engagement. So it looks like this British line is holding them down while the other tries to advance on the flank, but the French are coming over the hill in force. You can reload on the move, which is something that is different from the Napoleonic Wars, for those who are familiar with that. It looks like the British are trying to disengage and get into a more favourable position. The French, having noticed the enemies here in the ruins on their flank, realign themselves. And do a sizable amount of damage. So for those who are interested, the guns themselves do have ballistic physics. Different gun types, so muskets, rifles, pistols, etc., have different velocities, and the projectiles will suffer the effects of gravity and bullet drop differently depending on which weapon you're using. So we've got some melee over here. I'm reluctant to try and skip to it because we may lose it altogether. Let's see if I can get the camera to do something more useful. Unfortunately, that's as far as it zooms out, so not the most useful. We'll see if we can catch a better hint of the melee combat in future. We've got a lone soldier over there. I'm guessing he's disconnected. So the smaller British line has now been wiped out. The 51st here, the larger line, advancing. Oh, headshot on the guy we were looking at. Cannonball coming in for some of their friends. And another one. Excellent hits there from the 77Y artillery. Here we go, some melee. The bayonets can stab up and down. Swords also have the addition of left or right. You can block in each direction. The flag is also quite capable of being used as a weapon. Oh! Some close fire there. Danger close artillery fire support. And unfortunately our cameraman brutally massacred there. We will continue to use his corpse as a pivot point, however, if you watch the rest of the fight. And unfortunately that Frenchman got it in the back. I believe this is one of the developers running around here as the surgeon, but it could be one of the players. Oh, down goes the poor drummer boy. So we've got the French Guard unit here with the lovely bearskin hats. Got a unit of 4 British. That's an unfortunate lost soul. Is anybody else left? We've got the artillery. We have the British artillery at all? Doesn't appear like it. Oh dear. Oh, brutally picked off. So they're not really much of a line anymore, but I think that's because there is only 2 of them left. And so they are just going for it. They're charging the guns and hoping for the best, pretty much knowing it's a foregone conclusion. We're going for as close a view as possible so you can experience what this player is experiencing. And the French take the first round. So that map was Tahir Desert. For round 2, we move on to the Arden River. Sorry, Arden River. A much more foliage-dense map, as we can see. So the artillery pieces back here, there's 2 to the left, 2 to the right, but they cannot see a lot. They will be taking shots at things sneaking through the trees. It is no better from the British side. Trees everywhere, although they can make out some rooftops of the village that lies in the middle over the river. See if we can't get a hold of one of the British officers for this round and follow them in. There we go. Inspecting the troops. Little practice fire. So these guys at the back here are the light infantry unit. I believe that they've been told that they must follow the line until engagement, and then they can deploy out as a light infantry skirmishing force. They will have subtly different stats to the regular line when it comes to shooting performance, and probably be slightly worse at melee. And away they go. So you got a nice little run down here. You can just start to make out the bridge across the river. They're straight down the road there. But there are also other crossings, which it looks like the French are going for. There's a sort of pontoon bridge on the right there, and I believe there is a ford across the river on the left with some shallows. There is swimming in game, so you can take a swim across the river. Some long-range shooting there from the dirt clouds. You can see they are dropping very, very short. From looking at the shots as they were taking them, they seem to be aiming rather flat. They will have to increase their aim up if they want to reach that distance. The British seem to be going for the defensive position, letting them come onto the guns, which is probably a sensible choice, because the French guns will not be amazingly effective. Their vision obscured. You can see from the kill feed in the top right, the cannon's doing work, and the French really need to push forwards if they're going to not just get pounded by those for the next few minutes. Now, there are no ways currently to move the cannon from this position. They are locked in this place, so if they can get round the side of it, that is the weak point of the cannon. These obstructions will become a problem for the artillery and not a protection for them. The secondary French line there seems to have changed its mind and got a cannonball for its trouble. Most likely because that second British line moved up. There we go, the main French line is moving with them this time. We're going to take a look at it from the British side, the French side, sorry. We'll see if we can find an officer. That's their artillery. There we go. Standard bearer. Protecting the Imperial Eagle. We'll see how he does. So this looks like it's the 59th line. The French side is manned by the 59th and the 77Y. The United Kingdom is the 84E, 14T and 51st. And you will find the occasional embedded YouTuber, kind of like a war correspondent, around. Hopefully we'll get to capture Chadman catching a cannonball or some such later. You'll notice the weather effects have kicked in. We've now got some snow. You'll also notice it starts to settle on the rocks. And you'll also notice our standard bearer just got slaughtered. Time to find another guy to follow. Someone who's actually in the action, please, game. There we go, we've got a view of the pontoon bridge as the remains of the French line retreat across it. Oh, that was close. Some deadly accuracy coming from that artillery. Which is quite impressive as there is no reticule for aiming. You are literally looking down the barrel of the gun. Practice and experience being the keys to a successful artilleryman in Holdfast. You've got the British line attacking the French guns. Possibly. Officer brutally slaughtered with a bayonet to the face there. And just overwhelmed by pure numbers. Last Frenchman giving his best though. And down goes the Eagle. Little officers meeting here. You can go in the structures, you can go upstairs. The windows are smashable, as you can see. I believe they intend to make the buildings destructible in the future, but currently they are not. Officers meeting's over. Back to work. It must have been a French line at the British cannon, as this is the French cannon. It is entirely possible to cross the map, steal the enemy's guns. You'll notice the snow effect settling there. He's hunting for a target. You have a very similar view to what he would have. There is no zoom available for these guys. You have to be an officer to get the telescope. So they are relying purely on their sight as well. Which, with this foliage, is not an easy task for long-range shooting. If one cannon hits another, it will destroy it. If it hits one that's loaded, it will explode. So that is always an option for these maps, to try and counter-battery the enemy artillery. If you could take them all out, then you've got the advantage, and can sit there and smash the infantry with impunity. So here comes the British assault. See how effective they can be. Lovely shot there. Artillery guards exempt from the firing in line to some extent. Got the hit, and then got double bayoneted. So one important thing to note is that if you are in a shooting stance, when you get hit by a bayonet, it'll do more damage than if you're in a melee stance.
The British are victorious.
Effectively, if you get caught out unprepared, it will be an instant kill if you're in shooting stance and they hit you with a melee weapon. Whereas if you are prepared and expecting the fight, you can often last 2 hits. Okay, on to round 3. This map is Desert Ruins, and the time should be set to morning. You can hear from the sound a little windswept. Lots of cover to duck in and out of in certain areas, and nice and widely exposed in others. There'll be some interesting lines of fire. I believe for this round it is line infantry only, so you shouldn't be seeing any artillery. However, I also had in my notes that that was meant to be the plan for the last round, and we quite clearly had artillery, so... Stylish uniforms of the musicians here. Go take a look at the British. Much more organised. There we have a Chad man standing in line, no music. He must be feeling lost and away from home. Right, we found an officer, we'll stick with him for now. And off they go. Watched by the ever-present admin. Because we do have cannon. Their view rather obstructed by the archways here. Apparently someone was misbehaving. Executions have been taken into account. Along with the counter-execution, the massive bayoneting, and the map reset. Problems were experienced. So this here is one of the rifleman classes. This will be the French side, of course. The British represented by the famous 95th Rifles. So you will notice from the end of the weapon, no bayonet. They have a... I believe they have a sabriquet. It doesn't seem to be on the model, really. Yeah, there we go, he's got it out. The walking is an option for those who want to try to intimidate the enemy with the complete lack of fear shown. Not recommended in front of cannon. The line being baptized by the flag here. Very nice and orderly formation from the British. Be a shame if something was to happen to it. You see the French in the background, jumping over ruins. Not quite as stylish. Shots coming in. Looks like the three British lines are now splitting into their different contingent parts and all have a separate plan. These guys taking cover at the low wall. Hide half their body mass, of course. Putting some pressure on the French. A lot of those shots hitting low. You could see them slamming into the wall of the opposing side. Not aiming up enough for the range they were firing at. Come the French skirmishers. Oh! I believe that was an officer taken down there, so that's some more of the rules not being followed. The unfortunate guards taking a pounding there from the British. Skirmishers desperately trying to keep these guys off the French flank. Down he goes. It's like the British are reloading on the move. And here come the main French line. Watch this from the British perspective for a little bit. French taking cover behind that wall. I think surprisingly few kills. The British got very lucky there for being out in an exposed position. One line putting down suppressing fire, the other trying to come around the side. The French see it and pull back. This could still be a good opportunity for the British though. No, they're going to use the wall against them instead. Oh no, there we go, they formed up. Oh, kill feed. Rippling with names. Musician and the standard bearer holding together. Oh, the French have come in for some melee. They've jumped the second British line. This one doesn't seem to have noticed. If they can get behind these guys and shoot them in and stab them in shooting stance, those would be guaranteed kills. It looks like the French may have lost that fight. There we go. Everyone's getting involved now. Maybe that was the 59th French line there. They seem to have done quite a few casualties to the British 51st. Both sides just brawling in for melee now. You'll notice the standard bearer is quite capable of defending himself. Another French line coming in. British in a bit of disarray here, running around in circles, not quite sure who to follow. There's the officer at the front trying to take charge, but his line just melted. He's down to 3. Phasing off against probably 12. And that officer got targeted just a little bit there. See if we can find the remaining British troops, because there's just a lot of French at the moment. We've got one guy here. Small line using the wall for cover. We're trying to pick off as many as possible at range, but do not seem to be quite aiming high enough. The legality of some of these formations a bit questionable for me personally, but the event admin hasn't said anything and they're the referee, so whatever they say goes. So this here is the Carpenter class, and you'll notice if you look closely when he's shot just then, he has pretty much a blunderbuss. which will fire multiple projectiles, not very far at all, and with some significant spread. But at that close range, when there's an officer charging you with a sword, exactly what you want in your hands. Okay, now we're on to the interesting one. This is Falsburg Forest at night. Now you'll see officers have the option of getting a lantern out. It is only the officers that can do this. And they don't have to have it out. They can put it away and pull it out at any time they like. So they can use it for grouping up their men at the start, and then quite happily try and play in the dark if they so choose. They could use it to signal. You could do all sorts of things with it. Yeah, the French are getting on. They're up to a similar thing, using the lanterns to highlight where the officers are. They can group up quickly. You can see vision is a little more difficult during this time of night. The moon is reasonably bright though, so we do have a pretty good visibility. Lovely starscape as well. We'll follow this officer in. The ones behind him still have the lanterns out. I suspect those will get turned out fairly soon so as not to give their positions away. And now we get to play the same game as them. Hunt for the British line in the dark. I suspect even being able to change to the British is not massively helpful in that endeavour. Well, they do have lanterns on. So the fact we can't see them means they are quite some distance away. Or obscured by something more solid than a tree. They were near some rocks and looks like they're on a reverse slope almost. We see the French coming. Is that them in the distance? Yep, there's the French lanterns. We can see them in the distance there. You do not start within close distance of each other. Ah, and we have reset the map. Something obviously occurred. Aha. We are showing off more weather effects. So here we have a lovely foggy setting, because vision wasn't difficult enough. British creeping up behind the same fallen tree and rock. The British line's moving out this time. Perhaps they knew in advance something we didn't. There we go, French officer, so... Owls hooting, chirping crickets, fog, and the knowledge of an enemy nearby. Now, based on the lay of the land, I imagine they're up to the left there, but could be wrong. It could be a much larger map than I'm expecting. Zoom out, like we've got the advantage of doing. No, we were correct, they're on the left there. Looks like they're getting to a position to fire down on the French, who may not have seen them. But at that range, that is pretty much not going to be effective. Even if they do succeed in hitting, the damage will be reduced. The sounds of musket fire and the smoke, however, very effective. French commander takes refuge behind a fallen tree. From the British perspective, commanding view, sink master with a headshot. That's at some significant range. you may find that the target there has been wounded by a previous shot. Because even at 100 meters, I'm not sure one shot would kill usually unless they have changed it. Because it's going into early access, this kind of thing is changeable. Based on what the community desires and requests, they will quite happily make changes to things like this. It's all balance in the end. We take a look at that from the French line's perspective. They're hiding in the tree here. There's Chadman playing the rifleman. So the skirmishers here, using a non-line formation, they are allowed to spread out a little bit, which can make them very effective against lines that have to stay in that formation, of course. Now, a lot of people may be wondering, what about cavalry? Because cavalry will obviously be a very strong counter to riflemen like that. They are currently not in the game. They are on the development sort of path. They will be coming in the future. They have already started investigating what they need to do to get them in, so it's not a complete fresh start. But at the time of early access launch, they will not be in the game. Which is why you will probably find events limit them quite heavily and may slap extra rules on them to stop them dragging out games into a boring scenario if they, you know, just keep running away, turning around, shooting, running away, turning around, shooting. For 30 minutes is not particularly interesting for anyone involved. I think both sides are suffering from not really having any way to advance on each other in any form of cover. So they are just sticking with the long-range dueling, using what they happen to have at their disposal currently. Got a nice little musician trio here. So the option for the musicians is one can pick the song they wish to play and the others can opt to join in, so you all play together. Yeah, the British seem to have tired of the long-range duel and are now moving in. Fog appearing to lift just there. We're now back into just a standard night setting. Go take a look at what the French are doing. They seem to be repositioning to face this line moving around on their flank with the guards and some of the rifles. Not to be outdone, French musicians. Brightly coloured. Playing proud. British lines here, two of them coming in. The French deciding a tactical advance in an alternate direction is the choice of the day. It's like the other French line has decided to try an assault, maybe? Let's go have a look at them quickly. Alright, we'll stick with the riflemen, because they're going to harass this British line as it comes in. You can see them attempting to reload as they move away, but obviously they move slower while reloading. So they will get caught if they try that for too long. The line here now firing in. Only 2 rifles survive. And down goes, I believe, the officer there. The riflemen doing what they're paid for. Get some melee action. Oh dear. Looks like the admin staff are being held at gunpoint and executed. British colours are under threat. He got a good hit in. Oh, there's a team kill. Taking a wound. Colours flag bearer with the kill. And, yeah. He had his moment of glory, turned around and got a sword in the face. Seems the chaos has stopped for now, both sides regrouping. That poor rifleman executed. And the French with the victory. Okay, round 6. We are on to the final land infantry map. After this, we'll be moving on to naval. And this is Cross Hills, which if you saw the development videos, you would have seen me doing a tour of the map with the developers previously. There are lots of hills like those in front of me here. Trees, places to hide. It is a very ambush-like map with lots of close encounters, only made worse by playing that at night time. If you like getting surprises, up close and personal melee, and just chaos and confusion, this map at night is the one for you. If we can get one of the British officers to follow in. There we go. So vision is very limited. Your line of sight is blocked regularly. See if we can find one of the more aggressive British officers. Here we go. Tip of the spear. Oh, and there's the first ambush, as stated. Just crest over the ridgeline there. Volleyed mercilessly. Results in an immediate charge to try and counteract them. Oh, the poor musician being mercilessly hunted by the officer there. Aztir getting cut down. Again, not too sure about the firing out of line there. French charging out of the smoke cloud down the hill there. This looks like it's going very distinctly one way at the moment. We'll see if we can find the other British line. Here we go. They are ambushing another French line. But they themselves are about to experience painful bayonets to the back. Immediate kill on that guy. He didn't get out of shooting mode in time. British doing very well there before being finished off. Jackie Fish bringing him down. One left. And the French have it. And with that, the land battle portion of the naval action event has come to a close. In the interest of keeping the videos at a more manageable size for you to watch and for uploading purposes, the naval portion of the event has been split off into a second video, which you'll be able to find on the channel, and there should be a link up in the top of this video now. Hopefully you enjoyed yourselves. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the future. Bye for now.